This is a summary of Absolute Power, How the Pope Became the Most Influential Man in the World, the book by Paul Collins. This is my summary of the book. Part 1, Extinction, Chapter 1, A Death in Valence. I'll title this video Section 1, The French Revolution and the Papacy. This is a summary of page 3 to 11, and here's the context behind what was happening back then. Gallicanism, which has its roots in the 13th century, proclaimed how the French monarchical authority was able to restrict papal authority and appoint bishops. It accepted the authority of the Pope, providing it was settled by a general council of the entire church. The papacy only had a say in matters of faith, but was only binding when others accepted it. Josephism and Febronianism were just variations of Gallicanism. Another thing to consider during this time period was the Enlightenment of the 18th century. John Locke believed that authority derived from the consent of the people and not from God-given divine right. When a leader abuses that power, Locke believed that people have every right to resist. Ideas like separation of powers, religious freedom, and toleration were supported by Locke and the Enlightenment. Other figures of the Enlightenment included Voltaire, who attacked superstition and organized religion, and Rousseau's ideas of natural religion. On the 14th of July 1789, the French Revolution started. The Estates General established by King Louis XVI represented the nobility and the clergy, of which 300 representatives represented the clergy and 300 representatives represented the nobility, and also 600 for the commoners. The Third Estate, or the commoners, declared itself the National Assembly, and the Oath of Tennis Court was established in the 20th of June 1789, whereby the independence and unity of this assembly was announced until an approved constitution was written. Swiss and German mercenaries were deployed by the monarchy, which threatened the assembly to disperse. A National Guard was formed to defend the Constituent National Assembly by Paris trades and businessmen, which saw themselves as fighting for the commoners, and they seized gunpowder and weapons from the Bastille fortress. This culminated in the Declaration of Rights of Man and of Citizen in the 26th of August, which declared the balances of universal principles and the abolition of feudalism. Charles Maurice de Talleyrand, the Bishop of Autun, proposed the church wealth to be used at the disposal of the nation. Ecclesiastical revenue was seized, and between 1789 to 1790, religious orders were abolished, property confiscated, and 70,000 priests and nuns were expelled. Church-state relationships were redrawn. Afterwards, the civil constitution of the clergy was established in the 12th of July 1790. The National Assembly created this law, which affected only civil aspects of the church, drawing from Gallicanism. Many bishops refused this, appealing to Pope Pius VI. By November, an oath of loyalty was necessary, and this infuriated the clergy more. Pius VI condemned the civil constitution in 1791, declaring it to be schismatic, denouncing the constitution of the rights of man, and suspended priests and bishops who took the oath of loyalty. Talleyrand consecrated new bishops, since many bishops rejected this law. The clergy were forced to marry, with celibacy deemed unnatural, since there was no procreation occurring. This caused 170,000 individuals who were either part of the clergy or religious orders to marry. Dioceses were redrawn to conform to the departments, and citoyens actives, or active citizens, were able to elect their bishops. The Pope was merely notified when a bishop was elected. By September of 1791, the National Assembly was abolished. This was dissolved, and elections were held for the new Legislative Assembly. The Jacobins took the initiative by arresting the king and royal family by August of 1792, with the intent to abolish the monarchy. Insurgency occurred in provinces like Brittany, Dauphine, and Vendée, whom were loyal to the king. The country had no effective government, as it descended into chaos. The local commune took power by the likes of Max Robespierre, an idealist who executed anyone who opposed him, and the extremist Georges Jacques Danton. In 1792, Austria and Prussia formed an alliance against France. France invaded Austrian Netherlands and Prussia responds. The French army surrenders to Prussia at Verdun in the 2nd of September 1792. This is already fueled by the effect of food shortages and panic results. The Jacobins then decide to take a step further, and they proclaim that priests and the nobility were counter-revolutionary traitors. On the following day, the September massacre occurred, where 24 priests were killed by a frenzied mob, who many of them were drunk, and 225 priests died that week. Prisons were invaded, and thousands of innocent civilians, criminals, and prostitutes were killed, with estimates up to 1,400. On the 20th of September, the Christian calendar was abolished in France, and Year 1 of the Republic was proclaimed. This started the Reign of Terror. On the 21st of January 1793, Louis XVI was executed. The French army became successful on the northern front, and one ambitious general was present in Paris, named Napoleon Bonaparte. The Jacobins took more power in abolishing the monarchy, introducing civil divorce, and by April the Committee of Public Safety, which is quite an ironic name, gained power, with which started the Reign of Terror. At least 18,000 people were executed, sparking an anti-Christian, anti-clerical campaign. The Cult of Reason, later changed to the Cult of the Supreme Being by Robespierre, was established in the 8th of June 1794. The first ever Feast of the Supreme Being was celebrated. The radical writer and witness Helen Maria Williams stated that every church was inscribed with the Temple of Reason, and the universal cry of no more priests, no other gods was proclaimed. The goddess of reason was worshipped. The Reign of Terror finally ended in the Thermidorian reaction in July 1794. Freedom of worship was declared in February 1795, but Catholics, and most of all non-juring priests, were still being persecuted. On the 10th of November 1799, Napoleon launches a coup d'etat of Brumaire. A free-man consulate was set up, and Napoleon crowned himself as the first consul. This was known as the Constitution of the Year 8, and the revolution was declared to be established. Prior in May of 1796, Napoleon took Milan from Austria and seized the legations, the most prosperous northern regions of the Papal States, which included places like Bologna, Ferrara, and Ravenna. He demanded from the Pope 100 works of art, 500 manuscripts, and 21 million crowns cash. This forced the Pope to sign the Treaty of Tolentino, whereby the Pope had to pay 15 million crowns and additional works of art. The Pope lost the Papal States, other than Rome, but in the 9th of February 1798, the Pope was deposed with a new French-sponsored regime in place. The Pope was pushed out of Rome, through the Alps, and died in Valence. 1799 was the lowest point of the papacy. Well, journey with me next video, whereby I discuss Napoleon and how the papacy tried everything to survive his reign. Thanks for watching.